Welcome to this edition of More Than You Asked For podcast. Glad to have Trevor back. And Trev, we got video this time even. So we're making I know he's having some computer issues and stuff, but he's got that figured out, and welcome him back. As you can see, neither one of us are in our normal spots. We're different houses and stuff, and that's what summertime is all about. And we're gonna go not super long here today, but thanks for everybody for tuning in. A little different time, 1:00 in the afternoon, Trev. What have you been up to? And then we'll get right to it. I know we don't have super long today.
Yeah, just back. We're going on family vacation tomorrow to Chicago. So we're going to do the Riverboat Architecture Tour. We're going to tour the Bears Stadium while they're still there in Chicago. Going to go to a Cubs game. And then on Saturday, we don't really have anything planned yet. We're just kind of wing it. We might do the tower or ride the train or find some museums. Probably something inside since it's going to be so hot.
Yeah, it's going to be hotter than blazes, and it's been hot. I several years ago I went to the Boundary Waters, and it's on fire right now. So they kicked everybody out of the Boundary Waters and not letting anybody get back in. And I know out where you were living there were fires, so I think it's dry everywhere and warm everywhere right now. And a little bit of that is understandable. It's middle of July now, and that's what happens in Iowa. But not for everybody else. I know it's been super warm in Minnesota comparatively. But it is summertime, and we yelled at each other. What would you rather have, hot or cold? Probably hot. I mean, me personally, maybe cold, but I know most people would rather have it hot than cold because you can go outside, and as long as you're doing things smart, you can handle it for the most part. Now, there are health conditions and stuff, but cold weather, yes, you can put clothes on and stuff, but I don't care what it is. If you have to be outside and you're not dressed appropriately, it gets super dangerous super fast, I think. So probably cold's a little bit worse for you than summer.
I'll take the heat. But yeah, in Colorado right now, we got massive fires going on. There's one that's about 100,000 acres. It's about 40 miles from my house. So the fire's not going to get there, but the smoke's been really bad. So I came back here. I've been working for my brothers for a little while just to get out of that smoke. I mean, the air quality in Denver, I think a few days ago, was top 10 worst in the entire world. So yeah. The smoke's really bad out there. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks, they can kind of get that contained. But Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, I think there's one in Idaho right now. The entire West has just got fires everywhere. So it's pretty bad out West.
Yeah. And I know Grand Marais was that way. It showed one of the top worst air qualities. And it looked like, World Trade Center in 2001, just in New York and stuff with the fires and stuff. But there are, it is summertime. It's kind of all-star game, was last night, home run derby. Overall, it is what it is. It isn't like it was in, back when we were growing up, but overall, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't watch too much of the game. I was at a high school baseball game last night. And I'm going to get into that later if we have time, or Trev does have to go. Like you said, he's leaving for Chicago. We're going to get into youth sports and high school sports here later if we have time. But let's start with the big news that came out on Friday. So it is several days old now. But it pertains to us and what we talk about 90% of the time, and that's college sports. Jamie Pollard is going to retire within the next year. I do not think it will take a year. I think that was just probably end of the contract. Maybe if the guy they want to hire or girl is in the department and they just make that transition then. But if they go hire a new AD, and I think if they would do that in September, then I think he would retire relatively quick after that, because you probably don't want two guys in there or Jamie and whoever. It could be a female as well, and that would be absolutely just fine. Beth Getz is doing a great job at Iowa, and there's several others around the country. So does not matter who it is, whoever they bring in. It is a super important job. The job is different than when Jamie Pollard took it. It is different than when Beth Getz took it just a couple of years ago. This job is all about fundraising and revenue, increased revenue in the sports. Doesn't matter what sport it is, doesn't matter what school it is. Everybody needs more money, whether it comes from the state, comes from the corporate, individual donors. You got to have more. And Iowa State, being in the Big 12, not in the SEC or Big 10, is facing that deficit. So you've got to be maybe a little bit more creative because you're down $30 to $50 million a year just to start with the TV money.
Yeah, the landscape's definitely different than when Jamie Pollard took over, and even the last few years as he's kind of transitioned to this new world of college sports that we've talked about. I mean, yeah, for schools like Iowa State that maybe aren't in the Big Two conferences, other schools like that too, maybe you need to play the Powerball. Just have your AD buy $1 million worth of Powerball tickets every year when it gets real big.
I might not be the worst idea in the world.
But, you're not going to be able to buy a player with that $1 million. But, no, like you said, you got to get creative, new ways to find money, whether it's through corporation, individual donors. Every university is a little bit different. Of course, there's universities that have super rich folks that probably don't give a lot of money. And then you have like Indiana this past year and some other schools that we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years that might come out of nowhere where they've got some really rich donors and they saw what happened with Indiana and they want to be a part of that. And we've talked about too, I mean, a lot of these universities, people donating, it's not guaranteed that they're just going to donate for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Nope.
If they start donating that money and there's no wins that come with it or championships or, good runs in sports, that money is going to dry up. So every school's kind of battling those same issues. But like you said, with the Big Ten and the SEC, they get a lot more majority of the money. So their path is a little bit easier, obviously, where the Big 12 and the ACC right now, they've got to get more creative.
Yeah, and the question is, who are they going to hire? I think, obviously Dr. Cook just came from North Dakota State. So obviously the AD there would make some sense, has a relationship there if he liked what he was doing. The South Dakota State AD hired both TJ Otzelberger and Jimmy Rogers when he was at South Dakota State. So there's obviously relationships there. And then, I think Bryden Harden out of Drake. I think that has to be a call. He has to get interviewed. If I had to make a guess right now, he's your number one guy. He's from Des Moines. He's been at Notre Dame. He was at Marquette, so he knows a little bit of that. But you could go outside of the box a little bit. Do you go to a Big Ten school or an SEC school and go get their number 2 or 3 guy or girl and bring them in? Hey, this is your chance to lead a department. Then you can go back to those bigger schools as an AD with the, hey, I've been an AD at a big time school. And also those people have the inside knowledge of how they're operating. And I mean, ultimately what you need Jamie Pollard's been there for over 20 years. He's 61, 62 years old. You need some new, fresh ideas. That's really what the job is. However you do it, you just got to get new, fresh ideas. So I think it's intriguing. I think that wouldn't be the worst play in the world, is go try to get a number 2 or a number 3 at an SEC or Big Ten school. Or do you just go way outside the box and go get a businessman? Because it's a business. It is. You can say what you want, but it's a professional model now. Or do you go get the number 2 or 3 of the Bears or the Vikings or the – I think the person does need football. That's the downside to Bryden Harden. He's at Drake, where football doesn't run everything. Basketball does at Drake and the Drake relays. So it's kind of weird that football's not even top 2. So I would like to see them interview Bryden Harden. I'd like to see them interview a number of, you're probably not going to get one of the ADs to leave, but the number 2 or 3 person at a big time SEC or Big Ten get interviewed. Then I'd like to see an outside the box, a professional, commissioner type person, or even an entertainment, because they would bring in the corporate side of it more a little bit than Iowa State's done in the past. So those are the candidates I'd like to see. I don't really care who it is. I just want them to be looking forward, and right or wrong in this announcement, they're groundbreaking on some more Sci-Town stuff early September. That has to be a big focus, and you are a project manager of that job for the next few years. So that's got to be involved in this as well, because that's your outside the box money that Iowa State may be able to get that most schools don't have right now.
Continuous improvements to stadiums, facilities, all the restaurants and bars, revenue that can come from that. Again, that's another – NFL teams have done that. The Cowboys, Patriots, I think the Jags. They get all that revenue from those local businesses that are just outside the stadium or the arenas. So that's another good idea. As you mentioned, maybe you could get someone who worked in the NFL for a while but never quite made it to the top for whatever reason. They'd have that football background and salary cap experience, which you need now in football. And then again, it's a fine line too. You may not want to hire someone close to 60 just because who knows how much longer they want to go in this new world. But you also don't want to hire someone that's too young that doesn't really have a lot of experience. So you kind of want to blend that experience with new ideas when you're bringing in an AD and whoever else is going to come in on the staff and the decision makers. But it's a fine line to walk because, when we were younger, you could just bring in a guy that had been around the block forever and he could come in for 5 or 10 years and just keep the train on the tracks. No big deal. It's a lot different nowadays, though.
It's more like a roller coaster track now. You got to keep it on the roller coaster track. It's going down, it's going up. I was listening to some podcasts I listened to, and they're like, whoever comes in, and this is just part of it, has to have a 5/10-year plan. Some of your ideas, and you probably got to go route A, route B, and then there's the route that no one knows. I mean, you would have asked Jamie Pollard 10 years ago if we'd have been in this model today, he would have said no way, and no one else would have either. Maybe some pay to play would have been in, but it would have been the local car dealership, go to the fireworks stand. It wasn't guys getting paid $5 million to play quarterback at Texas Tech and then get in trouble and can't play. That was not even fathomable because 1, the online gambling wasn't a thing. And 2, no one was going to pay a guy $5 million to do anything.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Gambling is a whole nother aspect. Maybe Iowa State could team up with DraftKings or something. Actually, that probably wouldn't work out. Of course, the TV networks do that, but we've got the gambling scandals that are going on, and who knows what else is going to come out of left field that we're not even thinking about over the next number of years. Contracts, violation of contracts could come up. If there is a number set on what you can spend on a roster, what if teams go over that or go around it somehow? What rules are going to be put into place for those types of things. So we know there's not enough guardrails put in place right now. There will be over time. I think we're getting to that point. But, back to Jamie Pollard. He'd been there a long time, had a lot of success, improvements to all the stadiums and arenas. He's had really good luck with basketball coaches, done well with some football coaches as well. And, other sports I'm not as aware of as you probably are. But he's had a really good run there at Iowa State for sure.
Absolutely. Was he 100% correct? Absolutely not. No one would be at it. And if you were 100% correct and you were somewhere 20 years and you didn't try anything outside the box, and he tried some hiring Fred Hoiberg was outside the box. He never coached, not too long outside of playing, just been in the front office in Minnesota. And now he's been, the head coach at Iowa State, the head coach of the Bulls, and the head coach of Nebraska. So obviously he saw something in him. Gene Chizik didn't work out, but he was the guy that everybody wanted. He was the DC defending national champ, Texas, and he went on to win a national championship. You can say what you want, but he isn't horrible, and he did increase the talent for the football team. He recruited better than anybody else had. Steve Prohm, he didn't want to hire Steve Prohm, but he was kind of told to. He wanted to hire TJ Otzelberger. It didn't work out, but Prohm won a little bit with Hoiberg's guys. And then when he had the second chance, he hired TJ, and obviously TJ's probably the best coach in Iowa State history, even though he's only been there 6 years. But if he stays, and then that's the job of this AD is, obviously we have no idea what Jimmy Rogers is going to turn out, whether he wants to be at Iowa State, for 25 years, or if it's just not going to work or whatever. But TJ has shown that he wants to be at Iowa State. He could have left before, whether it was the Iowa State deal or whether it was Jamie Pollard. That's a big thing. Michigan's going to open next year, or at least there's going to be some inquiries unless the interim guy does a great job. But TJ is the number one priority to keep in Ames going in the immediate future. And then obviously figuring out Sidetown is number 2.
Yeah, you got to keep him. That's priority number 1. Hopefully he stays for a number of years. You're right, Michigan, knowing all the trouble that Michigan's had the past few years, there's a likelihood that job is open from after next season. So, keeping him around, obviously finishing the Sidetown, and then like we spoke about, just getting creative on ways to raise money because that's what it is now. You gotta have money. I mean, you can compete a little bit with a budget, but only to a certain extent. This isn't, it's not a Disney movie. You're not going to have a bunch of Rudies out there running around and win a national title. You got to have some money to really compete.
Yep. Yeah. There's a certain roster number, and that's where, I've heard a little bit where they need to have the person set in place before football season's over. So that person can give Jimmy Rogers the number that he has, whether it's $8 million or $17 million or $30 million. Doesn't matter what the number is. He just needs to know the number. It can't be, well, it will be, because if Jamie Pollard's still there, he's going to set the number. But then it'd be really bad if Jamie Pollard sets the number. Let's just say it's at $17 million. The new AD comes in, and all of a sudden it jumps to $40 million. That's a good thing, but something happened there, or they've just decided to go all in on football, whatever it is. But I'd rather it go $17 million than $22 million, then, gradually increase that, unless someone comes out of the woodwork and gives all the money. But, and then obviously, Jamie does $17 million and things go the other way, and now it goes down to $12 million. That's really bad. So I would like to see this person, even if Jamie Pollard's still there, but the person that's going to be, just like Iowa hired Beth Getz as the assistant AD for like 2 years before she got hired. And maybe Iowa State has done that. I don't look at the press release. I know they hire people in and out. Maybe the person they want is already there, and that could be fine. But I just, in my knowledge of Iowa State and some of the people there, I do think they will go outside. There's a couple people there that have maybe a chance that probably want the job, and they should try to get it, and they probably should interview them. But I would like to see some outside ideas brought in.
Yeah, and the one point I was thinking of, and you mentioned it, let's say Jimmy Rogers thinks the number is 17 million, and all of a sudden it's 12. You don't want that, because you don't want to go overspend on 2 or 3 players, and then all of a sudden you don't have the budget you thought. Now you have no depth, right, for injuries or just overall depth of a team. So it can work the other way too. Hopefully whoever Iowa State hires it's obviously hoping for the best, and get someone in there with some new ideas, raise some money, finish the projects that are already underway, come up with new projects that need to be done to help with recruiting and the new landscape of athletic directors nowadays in college. It's a lot different.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to number 2 on our list is the WNBA commissioner skipping the interview with Dan Patrick. You're going to know more of the details about this. I actually did just see today that there's a report out there that she didn't even want to suspend Thomas for the Caitlin Clark thing, but Adam Silver had to step in and say, you're doing this, which we've talked about many times on this, is maybe the NBA just needs to take over, period, and have like his deputy be the commissioner and just do it better. But she's just showing that she can't do the job, and she's got to be done soon.
Yeah, there's a few things. Every once in a while, I'm early on stuff. Not always. I'm wrong about a lot, but I've been saying for years she's not it. She's not a leader. She's got no spine. And then she skips the interview of Dan Patrick. Dan's one of the legends and sports figures of our lifetime. He's been around forever. Him, Rich Eisen, Coward. They're not like the Skip Bayless or the Stephen A. Smiths where they're yellers. Nothing
you keep
like
talking,
that.
Trev. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, they're not really. He's not really a yeller or a screamer. So for her to skip that interview was pretty weak. I guess they set it up the day or two before, and then they waited 2 hours after the show. They couldn't get an answer, and she just bailed on him, blamed it on the PR team, which could be the truth. That may very be what happened, but other commissioners don't do that. They don't skip out on interviews that they say they're going to get on. She's had other instances throughout the years where she just doesn't really look like a leader, and then the story comes out that Adam Silver had to step in. Adam Silver doesn't want to step in for these types of situations. He's got the NBA to worry about. When all this was going down, they were getting ready for the draft. They were getting ready for some free agency. The NBA combine was going on, all those different types of things. So I think this news got out because somebody wanted it out. Her contract expires at the end of 2026. Now, I don't know if it's actually at the end of the regular season or if it's at the end of the calendar year. Either way, there's a reason the story came out this morning. I think Adam Silver saw what happened with the Dan Patrick interview, her bailing on it. And I think either he, his agent, or the NBA people released this story just to get ahead of it, because I think they already know that they're going to let her go after this year. Now, who they're going to have step in, I don't know. You could have a number 2 or number 3 in charge of the NBA. You could maybe steal someone from the NFL, NHL, MLB. Doesn't matter, man, woman. You just need someone competent in there that can take control and get things handled with the whole Caitlin Clark situation and some other things that were going on. They were going to ask her about expansion. I think they got 3 new teams coming in over the next 3 to 4 years. They've already added a couple more. So the league is growing. But again, this is a league that's never had any consequences for anything. They've just been bailed out by the NBA. And Kathy seems like one of those people that is just kind of falling forward for lack of a better term. So I think she's going to be gone at the end of the year. We will see what happens. We'll see if we can get Morgan back on here or not. He disappeared for a few minutes. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty. I'm trying to see if he's in the comments. I don't think he is.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. There you are.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I went on the little Kathy Engelbert spiel there. I don't know if you heard it. There was a couple other things that I was going to talk about before I signed off because I wasn't sure how soon you'd get back on. But
my computer went from 24% to 3% in about 30 seconds. I was like, holy smokes. I got to go plug it in. So, and then
you're like a quarterback in a 2-minute drill. No timeouts.
Nope, not at all. So, no, I'm back. Good, Trev. Thanks, Doug the Cock, for a comment. I love good old love, Doug.
Doug's got some choice words there. But, I don't know if you heard what I said about Kathy, her skipping the Dan Patrick interview. And then this story leaked this morning. It leaked because Adam Silver, his agent, the NBA, they wanted this story out. Why? Because they're gonna let her go at the end of the year.
Yep. Yeah,
and they want to get ahead of this now.
Yep. They probably almost want her to just, hey, this will be my last, almost like a Jamie Pollard. Hey, I'll be done January 1st or what. It doesn't matter what day. But just they're gonna move on. They need to move on. We've talked about it several times, but and hopefully, they hire someone that will help them as well. I mean, they're at a crossroads right now. We've talked several times on this, and they need someone to really figure it out and get their most popular player in line with their best players and moving forward. So their best player is making headlines for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and Dan Patrick came out and said, I don't know if you saw that 4 or 5 minute video clip that he did about it, but Kathy Engelbert was 50 yards away from him after she canceled, hitting bunker shots there in Lake Tahoe at the course. So that was even more salt on the wound. You could tell he was upset. He's not really a guy to call out people very often. Like I said, he right when you were getting off, he's been around since we were young. He's one of the legends of the sports industry. So for her to do that was pretty spineless. And like I said, I think Adam Silver saw that. His people saw it. You don't want to tick off the media people that you've trusted for years to support your leagues. And that story came out because people wanted out. She's a goner whenever her last day will be officially.
Yeah, I know you said some of them, but there's about 5 people in the media industry that you don't want to make mad. Patrick, I think Scott Van Pelt, I think Pat McAfee is one of them right now, just because of his platform. Rich Eisen, and then probably like a Stephen A or somebody, just because of, not because everybody has to like everything they do, but their platform and how many people do pay attention to what they say.
Yeah, it's just bad business. And Kathy wants to be everybody's friend. She doesn't want to offend anybody. And when you're a commissioner of a league or a leader, you're going to have to tick some people off at some point. You're not going to be everybody's best friend. There was that one a year or two ago where she was dancing and drinking with the players in a tunnel. Like, you don't see Roger Goodell doing that. It's just, he hugs players during the draft when they get drafted because that's a special moment, but he's not out partying with them. And it's just, right or wrong, there's a certain behavior and an image that a commissioner has to have for a league, and she just doesn't have it. So, like I said, I believe her contract's up at the end of this season or end of the year. This will probably be the last we see of her, and I wouldn't be surprised if more negative stories come out about her because they're going to want to make this look like an easy decision for them.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just the way it is, and yeah, we're just going to move on. The World Cup is ending. I think a little bit of an upset yesterday with Spain beating France. Obviously we're in the court. They're in the semi. I mean, we're down to the final, the best teams, so anybody can win on it. But I think 2-0 was a little bit of a surprise. I did not. I'll be honest. I did not watch it. Did you watch it, Trev, at all or not?
Yeah, I watched the first half, and then the second half. Doug actually had to open up the Elks for a little bit, so we got to see the second half there at the Elks in town. Since he opened up, he came in and saved the day. Brett and I had Spain, so I'm happy about that. And Brett and I both have Argentina, so we're both rooting for Argentina here in about 30 minutes. Because if Argentina wins, then we're both guaranteed money.
Nice.
So that'll be the team that we're rooting for. And yeah, Spain, I think they've only given up 1 goal this World Cup. So if they go on to win on Sunday and don't give up a goal, people are saying it's the greatest defensive performance in World Cup history.
It's hard to beat it. It was 1 goal given up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I know kind of in the same thing, the World Cup for the women is next year in Brazil. U.S. going for their 5th title. And I think it's an important, 9 months or really 11 months. Is it the summer, or is it weird like when it was in Qatar?
I think it's in the summer. I'd have to double check, but
okay.
Yeah, it's in Brazil. So I think the time difference is maybe 2 hours or 3 hours difference from Central Time. So it's not going to be too big of a deal for us watching it.
Yeah, it's just, but this 11 months till next summer is important for U.S. soccer to keep the momentum. And then next summer, try to get as close to the same energy for it as it was this year. Now, there's 2 reasons. 1, the Men's World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world. And then 2, it was in the U.S., and this isn't in the U.S., but the difference is the U.S. had essentially 0% chance of winning this World Cup. The women have a great chance to win it. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. The farther the men went, the more, wasn't supposed to happen. They're playing with house money. Well, the women are supposed to win it. So if they would ever get knocked out, then so you're cheering for a team that's supposed to win it, more like Argentinian fans or Spain or France. You're in that boat in the women's. So, hopefully they can keep it and everybody pays, 70% chance, 70% attention to it instead of the 100 like they were this year. Get close to it.
Yeah, the women have been great. We were talking about the Elks yesterday too. I think the first Women's World Cup was late 90s, or maybe it's been longer than that. Maybe that's when the USA women first won theirs. I'd have to go back and double check. But, one of the reasons I think, and most people think, that we're behind on the men's side of soccer worldwide is because the entire world's been playing soccer longer than we have. They've had a head start. They just know the game better than we do. They play it from the time they can walk, basically. All you need is a ball and something you can use as a goal. You can use a couple of rocks or a trash can, and there's your goal, right? You don't have to have an official net. One of my theories is the reason that the U.S. women are kind of ahead of other countries is because of the rights that they've had here in America. Not perfect. It took longer than it should have for a lot of them, but we were ahead of other countries. And it gave them a head start to get going over other countries, and they've won 4. I think they're going for their 5th title. So, as you mentioned, hopefully the energy will stay the same. Hopefully they can get that number 5th world championship or whatever they call it in soccer. I'm just thinking of, it actually is a world championship. But that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, the summer of 28, we got the Summer Olympics in LA. So a lot of times we don't have a lot to talk about during the summer other than some baseball and some Caitlin Clark. Well, this summer and the next 2, we're going to have plenty to talk about, as will all the sports fans out there.
Yeah, it's really great. And the U.S. and Iowa in particular, there's in the 1920s and 30s, there were state basketball tournaments in Iowa. That wasn't heard of. So the transition to just playing soccer when they were already used to playing sports was a better transition. Like you said, maybe they didn't play soccer till 1975, or whatever it might have been, but they were being athletes, and then it was just an easy transition into a different sport. when other countries, parts of the world, just it was not sports for women was just not an option.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully the Americans keep up the energy that we've had. I'm going to miss seeing all the videos of all the foreigners that are here. I've still got a bunch. There's actually some people in Colorado Springs right now. They're just they're going to Garden of the Gods and doing some stuff. I just saw it a couple hours ago. So they're all over the United States. They're even in cities and towns that aren't hosting the World Cup. They're just out exploring. And it's just a good reminder that the news isn't always telling us everything that it should be telling us. And a lot of these foreigners that are coming here, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, the ice, the air condition, the food portions, all the stores that we have. I'll probably miss that more than the games, obviously.
Yeah. Yep. And it was weird the other day. I went to look at scores and there was not a game. Because there were so many days in a row where there was always a game. And I went and looked, and I don't know if it was a quarterfinal round, whatever it was like, oh man, that stinks. There's not a game on. So obviously there's a game today. Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be off, and then championship is Sunday at MetLife, right? Or New York, New Jersey, but MetLife.
Yeah, MetLife. There's actually a third place game, which I'm kind of happy about. If this only, since it's only once every 4 years, I am glad that they do a third place game. See what country has the pride to try to finish third. I see Doug's commenting on. We were talking about this yesterday too. All the flopping and grabbing and the theatrics of the World Cup. We complain about the NBA, the flopping, which there is a plenty of. The World Cup soccer. There's some fine actors out there that could win some awards if they were put into movies. That's for sure.
And Doug is letting us have, like, when there isn't a game, we call that a win. That's
No, it's been a lot of fun. 3 games left technically with the third place game, and then Sunday finishing MetLife, which I'm a little disappointed in. The fan feedback at MetLife has been negative. It's the worst stadium as far as fan feedback goes. I wish they were doing it in LA or Seattle or Kansas City or something, but they are going to finish in New York at MetLife, which is actually in New Jersey, I think. But that stadium is just for all the new stadiums out there, that's got to be the ugliest one. Yeah. It's just it's not real fun to look at. So, but that's where the final is going to be, and then we'll have 4 more years. I think in 2038 it's eligible to come back to the United States. And most people think that the United States will probably get the 2038 World Cup just because the United States did such a good job this time. The fans, all the cities, and I'm sure a lot of the cities that didn't get involved in the stadiums this time around will definitely want to be involved whenever it does come back next.
Yeah, and then the biggest thing is we don't have to build new stuff. Like you always see the new stadiums and they don't touch them again or whatever. We have all the infrastructure. We just pick what cities. We have to actually have to leave cities out that have just as nice, in the country. And we're not even using it. So.
Nope, that's exactly right. And I do got to
having a little
Morg, I do got to get going. I got some work stuff coming up. So I'll let you sign us off. And the last thing I'll say is we got 22 days until the first NFL preseason game, and it looks like Aaron Donald's coming back to join the Rams. So I'm gonna get going. I got to get on a work call and finish out the rest of my day. So I will be back next week, and I'll let you close everybody out here.
Yep. All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you later. Have fun on vacation, Trev.
All right, thanks, Morg. See you later.
All right, we're going to let it here. There he goes. I'm just going to finish here on a couple minutes here of youth and high school sport baseball right now. My life has went from a baseball game almost every day in June and then so far in July to now none. My son is done playing for a while. He's going to play some fall ball stuff, but and then we had other players playing in other teams. They played the same weekend in the state tournament. High school sports are now down to the state tournament in most classes. There's still a couple more. I think the big schools are still trying to get to the state tournament, but I know smaller schools have already set their state tournaments. and just the realization that it's over for a lot of kids, seniors. And I read this the other day. This is what wanted is baseball. The end of baseball or softball is different because it truly is the last. When you got done with football last fall, well, you still had the rest of the school year. You still had basketball or whatever you might be into. When you were done with, I'm just going to use the big sports, quote unquote, the big sports as examples. When you were done with basketball, you still had spring season or still had half a school year left, or not half, but a couple months of school left. When you got done with track, Pella won the state championship in men's track, and you graduated that night. So you still had the graduation, and it was still over, and you're just so excited you didn't think about that. When you end baseball or softball, and it's July 15th, some people it was July 8th, it doesn't matter when it was. That is the last time that you are associated with that school in a we example. I am part of the baseball team, the basketball team. I'm part of the school. It doesn't even matter. It's the last time. And so when you're walking off and you see those emotions, it's different. I remember my last game, it was at Walnut, Iowa, and I always rode home with my parents, but that game I rode the bus home. I just wanted my thoughts to myself because I knew it was the last time. Now, some people are still going to put on a uniform and play in college and everything, and that is great. So it is not your last time. But I knew that was the last time for me to play organized competitive sports without just doing it on my own, you can join a league or whatever, but just knowing that was it. And for, 98% of kids, that's the case. Whether it was track, football, basketball, wrestling, band, choir, FFA, 4-H, there might be a little bit left of 4-H and FFA people for the county fairs that are going on right now and state fair coming up. So that might technically be the end. There might still be a little bit, but the end is the end, and it stinks. And there's no emotion is wrong. No emotion is right. You see some that just kind of walk off stone-faced and trying to hold it together, and they may lose it in the car or lose it in their bedroom at night, whatever it might be. And some people just react differently. Maybe it wasn't the best experience, and they are glad it's over and ready to move on. Some of them wish it would keep going. One, just to get to the state tournament and try to win a state championship. And then others just want it to continue to be with your friends. And that's why you play. You play to learn, and you play to be with people. It's what people are meant to be. We're societal people. We want to be around people for the most part. And it's just going to be different. You're going to have new adventures, new things. Everything's going to be great. 99% of people, high school isn't the greatest time of your life. I hope it's not. I hope you find something greater. But just know that however someone reacts is okay. And then even, younger, like, my son who's going to be an 8th grader and other people are going to be 7th graders or 6th graders. This might have been the last time they're ever teammates with this person. Tyler's in that boat. He's on a team with people going to 3 different high schools. Some of them are probably going to play high school sports next year. So they're not going to play with the same team. Maybe this team, go to a different team and play. You never know when it's going to end. Enjoy the ride. And I just can't say that. Enjoy the ride. And then, obviously the number one thing is be there. It's not about the outs or the non-outs or the great plays, not great plays, winning and losing. That all encompasses it, but be there. When whoever it is looks up in the stands, know that people care, because not everybody has that. And some people just don't have it, period. But you're there to watch the team, watch all the players, and care about all the players. And everybody's fighting through different things. and they're there playing and doing their best. And we just want – that's what sports gives. It brings all types of people together and makes them one group. And what you can learn from that is so, so valuable. And that's what makes sports the greatest thing in the world. Just being with people, showing up, and doing your best, and learning from each other. And yes, nothing's perfect. Does the umpire miss a call? Absolutely. Does the coach call the wrong play or do the wrong thing? Does the player not make a play that he should make? Absolutely. Would he love to have this pitch back? But it doesn't matter. In the big scheme of things, looking back, you don't remember the scores. You don't remember each individual pitch. Yes, if you try hard, you do. But you remember how it made you feel. Did you have fun? Was the team fun? Johnny was the one cracking jokes in the dugout. Jimmy was quiet but just showed up and played hard every day. Everybody has their own thing. That's what you remember. And just, and I've talked about this, but I got two friends, Greg and Mark, that we have 3 sons that are all playing the same age, same levels, that they're on 3 different teams. We don't see each other, and then we see each other and we can talk for an hour. Just because of those times we spent playing baseball, playing basketball, playing football, playing in the yard. I had a boat growing up. We'd go down and go water skiing and stuff like that. Just those are the things you remember. So the memories are what's there. It's not the individual stats. It's not the individual plays. It's the memories you make. And everybody needs to remember that a little bit more. Don't get hooked up on every pitch and every situation. Enjoy it. I've seen this a lot lately. The days are long, but the years are short, and it's so, so true. Just enjoy it. Hope everybody has a great next week. We'll be back next week. And enjoy your summer. It is hot out there. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you next week.